Do you have bad genetics for lifting, or are you just being a little bitch? Now, I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Some of you guys are actually being little bitches when it comes to training. You are trained for aesthetics, you want to be a Greek god, you want to stay lean year out, which for some reason, some of you think it's a good idea because you see your favorite influencer doing it. And really, in the only case I think it's acceptable is when your focus is not so much on your physique, or there's not much more return for gaining the extra weight from the perspective of life priorities. Now, say you're super committed to training, you want to go all in with your training. Yes, there's going to be limitations to your genetics, your muscle insertions for bodybuilding, your leverages for powerlifting, the type of muscle fibers you have for powerlifting as well. But that being said, if you only believe those things matter when it comes to lifting, you're screwed. When it comes to training, you have to be able to take your training from point A to point B with whatever genetics you have. I would still aim to make as much progress as much as possible. You could still make a ton of progress regardless of whatever base level strength or hypertrophy level you're at, training a little bit smarter. Now, I mean by train smarter is train smarter for what makes sense for your genetics. If you're an elite genetic outlier and you can get away with the minimalist training and virtually have no plateaus year to year, you probably don't need to invest too much mental into your training. And you could argue it would help to try something else, but this really comes to the people that hit a hard plateau after the first 2 years, whether it's strength, bodybuilding, and they just start coping by saying that my genetics are not made for bodybuilding or powerlifting. I'm not meant to be strong. That might be true. I'm not gonna say it's not true for some people, especially if you have health conditions. But if your excuse that you keep getting injured, you lose motivation, then you're being a little bitch. It's that simple. And I'm not talking about being a power lifter. I'm talking about making basic strength gain so that can help out with your hypertrophy training. It's not about being a powerlifter, and vice versa, it's not about being a bodybuilder if you're not utilizing hypertrophy training for powerlifting gains. Now, I'm going to use my legs as an example of progress. When I was a little bit leaner, at 205 pounds, I thought I just didn't have the genetics with my lower half, particularly the squat movement, to be a very strong squatter. I also thought that I would never have a good set of legs because for some reason, my legs always look skinny. What I failed to realize was that my legs, they were not greatly proportionate to my upper body at 205 pounds. If I want bigger legs, you have to gain weight. If you want bigger X body part, you have to gain weight. And you're not gonna look aesthetic everywhere else. You're probably gonna take a hit everywhere else because you're gonna gain a layer of fat. And unfortunately, you can't really choose where your fat's gonna be dispersed. You gain the fat, you look crappy everywhere else, but guess what? You're gaining in one particular body part that you're hammering, hopefully with your training, a weak point. So after you go through this loop of looking like crap everywhere else, you're making progress for that one body part. You're sacrificing the rest of your physique. And this is imperative if you want to make progress for a stagnant body part. Now, from the perspective of strength, I never thought I'd be a great squatter until recently. And thinking back about it, the squat was my first love for powerlifting before deadlifting. I didn't even deadlift until my 4th month of training, when I was squatting 315 already. And for some reason later down the route, when I stopped making progress, I started coping with the excuse that I'm not a strong squatter. And that was true. I wasn't a strong squatter at the composition that I was at. And now that I'm gaining weight and making a lot of progress, I'm starting to realize that your genetics can be pushed way further than you probably think. I'm seeing that with my squat blowing up. And a lot of you are cutting yourself short, either taking PEDs or entirely giving up on lifting goals. Now, alongside this genetic push, you have to have some things right, and that's a surplus, a good training plan for either strength or hypertrophy, and lastly, consistency, and stop picturing yourself in a specific way that might not be realistic. Because at the end of the day, yes, it's genetic based. You're still gonna have shitty insertions if your insertions are best. You could have bad genetics but make a crazy push forward in your physique, in your strength. It's being a little bitch inside that's making you not making that push. I hope you like this video. Like, subscribe, comment below, use code JUSTICE for huge supplements, and young LA. Peace out. Don't be a little bitch.